Welcome to my channel and welcome to a contemplation on Gene Key 25. We're going to dive into this archetype that moves from the shadow of constriction to divine love through the pathway of acceptance. I'm filming in my office today. It's a little bit too windy out there today. And in fact, the house is rocking, the float home is rocking. So constriction, the shadow of constriction. I've just been listening to Dr. Zach Bush in an interview, speaking to who I know is good friends with Richard Rudd, who speaks to the core wound, which, is what all of the gene keys are pointing to, is this core wound at the shadow level is our feeling of separation with nature, our feeling of separation with source. And I guess that's coming forward because it's so pertinent to this constriction. It's how we constrict ourselves, not through our own will, but just through the conditions that we've been born into, the programming, and the constriction is literally what keeps us feeling separate from life, from abundance, from divine love. And with all the shadows, there's the repressive nature and the reactive nature. And in the repressive nature, we're dulling what we really feel. We're not in touch with what we really feel. And as we speak about with the gift of acceptance, it's only when we feel what we feel and we accept what we feel that we can begin to remember and realize that we are always connected to this divine love. We are always connected to source. And the reactive nature on the other side of that is that we project what we're feeling onto other people. And so we're also denying ourselves from what we really feel and owning our feelings. And I was thinking of this constriction through the lens of fascia, because if you haven't noticed on my channel, I've been obsessed with speaking about fascia. I'm fascinated with fascia and how this ties into the conversation with gene keys as we move through the shadow frequencies. And the denser emotion is literally when our fascia is dense and stuck because of lack of hydration through movement, because we hydrate our fascia when we move it, especially in spirals, and mineralize our bodies. And we're also counterbalancing a lot of toxins in our environment and everything that makes this extra challenging to break through constriction. But when we hydrate our fascia, we are literally unblocking our fascia. We are removing the stickiness with the adhesions that just make our bodies literally denser than they need to be, than they can be. And we open up flow within our bodies for these denser emotions and these densities and these reactive ways of being in the world, such as either repressing what we feel or denying what we feel or projecting what we feel. So moving into the gift level, I love how Richard Rudd breaks down acceptance. Like, what is acceptance really? And he does an amazing job of breaking down at the first is the body layer, then the emotional layer, and then the mental layer. So at the body level is to first just allow what our body is feeling to go through what it needs to. Just allow and be in that neutral space of where we're not judging what we feel and we're no longer projecting. So that already brings up our frequency to that gift level. And then we get to, and what he says with allow, which is so important, is that we don't judge it, but we also don't have to like it either. We don't have to, allow the uncomfortable feelings or sensations to be like, oh yeah, this is great. This feels awesome. And I've had this real life example this week. I had anger come through, and then also like literally a stitch in the fascia of my heart and my pancreas. And so, going through this, like this week, allow. Don't try to constrict or project the anger onto my partner, although it might have like subtly peeked through. But we laughed at it because we were aware of the energies of this week. So we allow first, and then we can come to acceptance, where we accept the emotions. This is the emotional layer. So I'm accepting that I'm angry. And it's not that many years ago, maybe 6 years ago, I wasn't even in touch with the fact that I had anger. So this is a big improvement. So accepting what we really feel. And, I had a lot of judgments about anger, and anger not being a good emotion to feel. But as many of us know, it's important to feel what we really feel, because it's dictating, it's telling us information. And we have to listen. And that is so much a part of all of the gift levels, is being in a space of listening to, like, what is the wisdom here? And of course, we can't get that wisdom if we're not even allowing ourselves to feel what we need to feel, and we're not in tune with the sensations. But if we're judging or projecting them onto somebody else. So then we eventually can move to embrace, the final part of acceptance, which is at the mental level, where we can embrace the feelings, where we can embrace the sensations, we can embrace the wisdom that our body is giving us. And for me, the biggest, the embracing that I've been having is just a deeper reminder of the importance of pausing and dropping into presence throughout my day frequently, as I'm in a season of expanding and including more people in my sphere and communicating, and not getting swept up in other people's agendas or frequencies or emotions or rhythms, and continue to come back to that present moment and creating from that space of presence, versus some of the shadow which are reactive or repressive. And then the highest expression of this one is divine love, which, as Richard Rudd says, is not the love that personal love that we might feel with a partner, but it's that divine love, unconditional love with all of life, with every single person on the planet. A true embodiment of our interconnectedness and our unity with all living things and non-living things. And the beauty of all of life. And as Richard Rudd says, with all of the keys, all of these archetypes, the city, in this case, divine love, is a seed sitting in the shadow of constriction. And I think that's such a powerful contemplation point, to find that seed in the shadow. Divine love is sitting there in constriction. So when our bodies are dense and tight and aching, can we remember that somewhere in there is divine love? And if we allow what is to express, however uncomfortable, we're being supported by this divine love. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this particular gene key. Do you have this one in your profile? If so, share where it is. What have you learned through this pathway of acceptance? And any other things you feel called to share. I love to hear from you. And I'll see you in the next video.